Hi everyone. Uh, Welcome to Financially Aware Bharat, guys, and we'll be starting the session. Just a minute. Great. So I think we have Anuvrati ma'am with us. Just a second. Yeah.
Hello,
Hi, Aman.
hello. Hi, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. Welcome to Financially Aware Bharat.
Thank, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, are we good to go?
Yes, all good.
Great. So, hello everyone. Welcome to today's live, and welcome to Financially Aware Bharat. I am your host, Aman Agarwal. I am a final year student at IIT Kanpur and a community moderator at FAB. Today we have with us Miss Anuvrati Gupta. She's a digital marketing expert, analytics and coach at Google. She started her journey in startups that was brilliant and bright in the field of marketing and analytics. She has over 9 years of working experience in the field of digital marketing, data analytics, and marketing intelligence. Aside from her work, she loves mentoring and coaching, read on health, lifestyle, and finance. She's also a big believer of yoga and loves to travel. So, welcome to Financially Aware Bharat again, ma'am. And yeah, we are
Thank
quite
you.
excited for the session.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm equally excited to talk to, all your followers and financially.
So, how about ma'am just telling about something about digital marketing, right? You have been into this profession from quite a long. So, how this has been booming and how important it has become for the current ecosystem.
Yeah, so as you can see how our online ecosystem is growing, and it has even become more important day to day, that we are digitally we are using digital marketing to actually reach our users. If I look 10 to 15 years back, it was more around when a lot of people were actually not online. But in today's world, if you would see, all of us actually explore a lot of things digitally or
Hmm.
online, right? And when we'll also talk about a lot of finance, investment and everything, you would know that how important it has actually become. It's not only like a platform to put the advertisements, it's also an important platform to actually grow and learn and interact with your community.
Right, right. Yeah, I think so. Most of the major startups nowadays, they want to grow their customer base and awareness regarding their product. Digital marketing has become a key source for that, as
Yeah.
you mentioned. So, ma'am, you must be aware about our page, that is Financially Aware Bharat. So we sort of create content for enhancing the financial knowledge of our country's population. So let's deep dive into somewhat on that aspect. So, my question to you is, what key factors do you consider on, or any strategies or any approaches before making any diversified investment decision? Like, how do you stay updated with the latest of the tools and the techniques that are available in the market, and how to make that decision basis of that? So, what's your
Yeah.
opinion on that?
Uh, Thank you so much. So what I'll do, I'll actually maybe break it down into
Sure.
multiple processes. So we'll start with strategies, then we'll go into what are the approaches which I would consider, and if there are any tools or forums which are available which people can actually use. So first of all, I would like to thank you, because this is a very important topic. All
Hmm.
of the individual should be aware about what finance is, what investments are, and
Hmm.
how do you go about it,
Hmm.
because that is a good starting point sort of a thing for everybody. right? So let me start with first, how did I start my financial or investment journey, and
Hmm.
what is my strategy, right? So what I generally do is primarily like every start of financial year, so say like April or March, I just sit down and jot down a couple of goals in terms of what I'm actually looking for in next 1 year
Hmm.
or in next 5 years or in next 10 years. But I like to actually break it down into more of a short term goals as compared to just keeping it only long term. So I break it down in
Hmm.
like a 1 year kind of a goal, what I'm looking for, and then see how much monthly I'll have to actually invest in order to reach my goal. So that's something which I'll do maybe in start of April. That's a good exercise. I don't use any apps or tools or something. Spreadsheet is something which I go about it, like just write down everything there and do all our calculations by myself. Now, once I have that goal in place, I then do it in terms of from my salary, how much I need to invest in. So very important point,
Hmm.
which is basically a lot of time people actually think that I'll spend money and then see how much I can invest in,
Hmm.
right? But a very important piece for all of us to be aware of that, invest first and then spend. So that is primarily like my strategy. So
Hmm.
every
Right.
month when I'm getting my salary, I know that, okay, this much percentage is amount I need to invest in. I'll keep it aside and then only invest or do some other things, right? So about a split as well, which people talk about, like 50%
Hmm.
should go on your needs and 30% on your wants and everything. I would actually say, I go with like a 60-40 kind of a thing, where I like to invest 60 to 65 percentage and then rest
Okay.
for
Hmm.
your needs and wants kind of a thing, right? And I would suggest, like, to everybody who is watching the live, maybe you might not
Hmm.
be able to start with, say, 60 percentage. Don't worry about it. Like, start with 10 percentage today and then slowly reach that stage, right? So I
Hmm.
might have started investing with, say, like 5 percentage or 10 percentage, and now I've actually reached that stage where I'm able to manage that much percentage, right? Once I do that, then I also look for a lot of forums where I can actually invest in the money. I might not be able to do it on a monthly basis, but at least I've kept that fund aside in terms of where all I want to invest in. The second very important thing is basically diversifying the portfolio. So it's
Hmm.
not only like I put all my money in mutual funds or stocks, but it needs to be
Okay.
diversified. And I do believe in putting in money in FDs and PPFs as well, because those are like much safer, instruments where I can always pull back money whenever I want. So
Right.
those
Right.
are multiple kind of instruments which I generally use. So there would be a lot of reels and a lot of content which you would actually come across, which are talking about don't invest your money in FD or don't invest your money in PF or PPF. But I
Hmm.
believe that there needs to be certain amount of money which needs to be put in there, because now if I look back 8-9 years down the line, when I actually started investing in, it is a very good sort of capital which I have actually built in there as well. So we can't deny that fact that it is most safe kind of instrument which I use. Then I slowly moved in my investment journey to actually start investing in mutual funds and stocks and various other kind of instruments which are available. So that's
Right. Right.
primarily my strategy. How do I go about is basically do a lot of research, read a lot of news articles, analyst forums which are available, your ET Money, Money
Hmm.
Control, Financial Times, and
Okay.
various forums which are available online today. So I just read through those. A lot of times I also like you know go for online courses and workshops where people are educating you about, say, how do you invest in stocks, or how do you invest in mutual funds, or what are different kind of funds which are available today. So I do that. Then also we all have seen today there are a lot of influencers or content creators, those who are available on
Right.
Instagram and
Right.
on YouTube. So I actually consume a lot of content on YouTube.
Hmm.
There are a lot of Indian bloggers,
Hmm.
we can actually watch that content. It is good in terms of awareness, education, because that's like the key for you to actually start investing, right? If you don't have education, then it is very difficult to actually start with. And lastly, I think very important, but it is important to discuss it with your network as well. Similarly, like, the kind of community which you are building in. So it
Hmm.
is important to actually connect, discuss it with like-minded people and figure out in terms of what they are doing. I know one size doesn't fit all, but it is important to know in terms of what other people are
Yeah.
actually doing, right? And then you can always take your call. So I would say, like, taking a call is something which you should do it basis the goals or, like, a plan which you have for a short term as well as long term. But it's always good to
Hmm.
hear from people, learn from
Hmm.
people in terms of what are their experiences, like, did they face any challenges or, like, any learnings, etc. So those
Hmm.
are really good things. So we keep discussing all these things in, like, our corporate network and our offices and
Hmm.
everything in terms of what people are doing, because that's a good learning activity for me. I hope I answered, like,
Yeah,
all your questions.
definitely.
We can always,
Definitely.
yeah.
Right, right. So as you mentioned about that, primarily I would specifically I would like to mention 2 points as you mentioned. The first thing was the content that we sort of get from social media, right? Because even specifically talking about this Gen Z generation, even we like to sort of consume news through reels, through short Instagram posts, Facebook posts.
Yeah.
So finance is also something which basically they make that crisp 30-second videos and you get that vibe and then you search that in Google and then you see what are the available products and services available in the
Hmm.
market so that we can get our hands on that. Right. And second thing that you mentioned about is that trust circle that we sort of have in our workplace or in our education place, wherever we are right now. And we sort of discuss about, this is what I'm thinking to invest in. This is what, so you get, hey, I'm invested in this and this has given me this much amount of return. Right. So this is
Yeah.
something that really helps. And yeah, so talking about that, so as you mentioned about different aspects of investment like mutual funds and then stocks, FDs, right? So what key factors do you consider? I just wanted to ask, do you rely on professional assistance or any financial advisor to manage your investment, or do it completely by yourself?
Yeah, so like so far I've actually been handling it all by myself. So like though I consume a lot of content which is available to
Hmm.
actually educate myself, to learn about what's actually going on, but I have
Hmm.
not hired any financial advisor or, like,
Okay.
investment advisor to actually handle my
Hmm.
funds. Maybe I do it in future, but at least at this point of time, I'm not doing it.
Okay.
But to do that, then I go through, like, a lot of reading and research before actually, like, to plan to invest in, like, any of the
Hmm.
specific
Hmm.
mutual funds or, like, any of the specific stocks, or any of the other investment strategies which are available. So I do that.
Oh, great, great. So,
Yeah.
so we'll be having the questions, I think, yeah. So, ma'am, should we go for the questions right now or at the end, like whatever you prefer?
Yeah, whatever works best for you.
Okay, so I think we have a question for Abhinav, from Abhinav. So, what is the
Okay.
best place to invest money right now, which can give best returns? So, yeah, quite a subjective question, I think. Yeah, so anything
Yeah,
you would
I
like
would
to?
say this is a very, like, again, like, as you mentioned, it's a subjective question, and the best investment for you might not be a best investment for me. And both of us might have, like, a very different kind of a goal. So I would recommend the, like, everyone and to Abhinav, that figure out what is the goal which you are looking for, what is the return which you are, like, looking for, and then start with that. Analyze
Hmm.
what is your risk appetite at this point of
Hmm.
time. If you are, like, somebody who is looking for, like, a 10 to 12 kind of a percentage of return, and you don't want to take a lot of risk, maybe go with some index funds where you just put it in money and then, like, it will grow at 10 to 12 percentage, right? ELSS funds and everything. But
Hmm.
if you are somebody whose risk appetite is high or moderately high kind of a thing, then maybe explore some stocks and mutual funds which work best for you is what I would say. But yes, I would say have a goal in mind and then figure out what you really want to do.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So, as you mentioned about risk appetite, so I think like when we start our journey, like I'm talking about as a college student, so
Yeah.
stocks is something that quite fascinates a lot. Yeah, this has gone up, this has gone down. So I just want to ask your experience, how you started doing that. Like, what actually was there something overnight that hits, like you were watching something, then you thought, oh, I should do investment, or was that a sort of a continuous process that developed
Hmm.
and then you started doing that. So
Yeah.
what was that in your case?
Yeah, I would say it was not something where I started doing it overnight. But yes, I do have made some mistakes where, similarly what you mentioned, I have made those mistakes like, oh, this is growing at this much percentage, let me actually just put it in, right? Or one of
Hmm.
the biggest mistake which all of us actually make is primarily if something is growing really fast, we don't analyze that, okay, this is at the peak. We just invest in a lot of money
Correct,
there,
correct,
thinking about
correct.
that it's at the peak, right? While our investment strategy, which I have learned over the years now,
Hmm.
is don't worry about if something is in red at this point of time. Just do a proper analysis, figure out if this is something which is worth making the investment, and then invest in that thing, right? Because a lot of people, and I have actually done it personally, when a lot of stocks were at the peak, I have invested in them at that point of time
Hmm. Right.
versus I would have done it. And when it is actually down, it is all in red. That's the time when I thought that, oh my God, it might go down. Let me just sell it off. So that's a kind of mistake which we all of us do, but it's a constant or continuous learning process. Coming back to how I started this overall journey is not overnight that I started investing in stocks. I actually started with your PF, your FD, and then slowly moving to the tax saving mutual funds, and then exploring different mutual funds, and then to stocks when I was confident about it. So because
Oh,
it was also a journey when I was actually educating myself, learning a lot about these funds which are available, and then investing in. Initially, I was also making some investment, like I don't know anything, but somebody is saying, let's just put it in money, right? So those are also the things which I have done, but that happens.
right,
But that's what I
right.
have done. Like I have slowly started and made a strategy in terms of what works best for me,
Hmm.
as compared to just going in very randomly into any of the funds.
Oh, okay. So, ma'am, my next question is,
Yeah.
so as you mentioned about that you started it, like eventually you were learning also and you were investing also. Initially, you adopted some safe options, right? So, have you ever faced challenges in managing your investment alongside your salary, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, like as I mentioned, what happens is that say you invest in stock or you
Hmm.
invest in mutual fund,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Mutual funds is still okay, and that's why that was an instrument which I like investing in, because I don't need to do anything on, say, a day-to-day basis kind of a thing, right? Or say a
Okay.
week-on-week kind
Okay.
of a frequency. But in stocks, you actually have to be on point. If
Hmm.
not on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, you actually have to be very updated in terms of what's going on
Hmm.
in the market and what's happening, etc., etc.
Hmm.
So all of this has happened with me where I have gone dark for a month where I haven't done
Hmm.
anything, or I have gone dark for 3 months where I haven't done anything. But
Hmm.
what I've done is basically this diversification helped me really well. The monthly planning really helped me well, that okay, this much is where I'm actually sending it, and now I can figure out in terms of when do I need to invest my money in stocks, right? So I
Okay.
just need to figure out that point and then put it in money and then figure out, because it's a long term
Hmm.
strategy, so I can don't need to see it maybe for 3 months or 6 months, etc. I also opted for a lot of these blue chip stocks, or the companies which I was
Hmm.
really believing in those technologies or those companies, to actually
Hmm.
invest in those, as compared to going with a lot of very volatile kind of stocks which you need to watch on a day-to-day kind of a basis. So those are some of the things which I actually did, but still I feel that
Hmm.
uh, a day-to-day kind of a management, say if I need to start investing in FNOs, it's very difficult for me because I don't have a lot of time on a daily basis to actually invest in so much to be online during certain
Okay.
time and then invest in it.
Right. Right. So, you mentioned about blue chip, and there's a question in the chat. Maybe you can just share your thoughts on that. What's your take on investing in small slash mid cap indices versus blue chip slash Nifty 50? Yeah. So depending upon the market, how is market doing? So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so hi Vinayak. Again, like the opinion here would be that one, diversify your portfolio. So shouldn't be doing like everything, put it in a mid cap versus putting everything in a blue chip. But what I have seen for people, those who are looking for a consistent growth
Hmm.
on a long-term basis, the blue chip works really well. And also because a lot of us are actually salaried, we don't have time on a weekly or on a monthly basis to actually keep monitoring these.
Hmm.
Then blue chip works really well in those kind of scenarios, that you put money in really bigger stocks or bigger companies, and then just go with the flow, what's happening,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Right? While at the same time, I would recommend do diversify it with some of the mid cap stocks which are available, because that will give you the highest amount of return. But at the same time, then you need to be on top of everything on a regular time span, what is happening. At the same time, I would say like there are a lot of external factors which actually impacts, but stock market is really unpredictable. So don't worry about it if anything is going all of a sudden in a green or in a in a red kind of a thing. Don't start selling it off, just wait for it. And lastly, just do a very good research in terms of on which stock are you investing in. Because say
Right.
if a lot of times what happens is you end up investing in a stock which is already in a lot of legal kind of challenges which are going on with that companies, or that company is almost about to go bankrupt, and then we still invest in those kind of stocks as well, right?
Hmm.
So do like a thorough kind of a study in terms of what is available, and then what are you going for. One thing which I always see is that not only the performance, but I also see, are these the verticals which I really believe in, right? Like say artificial intelligence for that matter, right? Maybe that's one area which might actually boom, and there are a lot of things which are coming up. Do we
Right.
really need to invest in that, right? So it might not give me return at this point of time, but like over the years, or maybe a 5 year down the line kind of period, it might give me a good return kind of a thing. So I would say have like a mix of both in your portfolio. Have a goal and then just go with it.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. And so we discussed about, you also mentioned before you made some mistakes initially, right? So, ma'am, maybe you can just tell what you learned from them, from those mistakes, and maybe if possible, you can share what was the mistake and how we should take learnings from that.
Sure. So a couple of things which I actually did was one, I was always looking for that perfect instrument to actually invest in, right?
Okay.
So can I guess it, how much will I gain? Can I okay, I need to have that actual number in my mind in terms of how much money I'll actually make it out of it, right?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
that was one. Like obviously I thought like those were the initial days, or even now we should have like a good risk appetite, where we should be being more risk taking and investing in those areas as well. So that is one. The other one I felt was primarily maybe starting early. uh, like I have had today was something, if I had that time, it would have really made a lot of difference for me, right? For example, like I mentioned, that today it's basically like something which is very fixed for me, that okay, this much percentage I'm actually just keeping aside as my investment, right? And then only I'm actually going to spend it. But that time it was more like, okay, let's spend, and then whatever is left, we'll see. It was more for the tax and the investments which I was actually doing, like tax saving
Hmm.
investments which I was doing at that point of time.
Okay.
But there was no goal in mind, and there was like, okay, we'll just do it kind of a thing, right? So that awareness was really, really important. And that's why I mentioned, you are working on building a really good community, I would say, because a lot of us, when we actually start working in the corporates, we don't have that level of awareness, right? So it is
Right.
important to actually have that education. And that time I felt maybe like I was not well prepared for it, I was not well educated for it. I was just going with the flow kind of a thing, like, oh, I saw this stock which will grow by this much percentage, let's just invest in, right? So I have made mistakes by not doing the due diligence, but just going with the flow kind of a thing. But I feel like, yeah, we all made the mistakes and then we
Okay.
learn from it. But the
Hmm.
biggest takeaway or the learning is primarily start early, and then invest, and then only just have your salary to spend money on your day to days and your luxuries and everything, because that's the biggest mistake which all of us make.
Correct. You mentioned about goals that initially you were going just like go with the flow and not targeting your investment on a basis of goal. So I would like to ask you, like, do you have any long-term financial goals guiding your investment decisions, and how do you align your investments with those goals?
Yeah, like as I mentioned, that all of us actually have some long-term goals,
Right.
right? Somebody might be looking to buy a flat, or you want to invest in a land, or like I might want to leave and retire, maybe take an early retirement sort of a thing, right? So all of this is important, but then like once you have these kind of pointers,
Hmm.
but then these are also some things which might keep changing for you kind of a thing, right?
Right.
So I would say it's also about how much money do I need for say next 30, 40, or whatever years, and then aligning it with, okay, these are my instruments kind of a thing. So you have a goal, but then you also have something, how much money you would actually need, and then you break it down in terms of like how do you actually invest it. So then that actually comes down to, or boils down to, your yearly kind of a investment strategy, which you can
Hmm.
actually go about it. Because like say if I start thinking about, okay, I need like 5 crores by end of 2 years or something, that's something which I don't do it primarily. But I have say some hardcore goals which I really want to fulfill. So I just prepare for those, that do I have enough in hand to actually fulfill the goals which I have.
Right. Right.
So
So
always
there
good
is
to
one.
break,
Yeah.
sorry, no, I
Right.
was just saying, always good to break it down from long term to short term, because
Yeah.
those becomes like clearly actionable kind of a thing.
Right. Right. So, ma'am, as you mentioned, initially we are sort of reluctant to get into goal-oriented thinking while investment. So eventually you figure it out, this is something that you have to do over time. And so my question is, I have personally seen myself and few of my friends, right? And like there are a few cousins in my house, like they are earning right now, and it's like they are quite reluctant to start investing just because they're quite busy in their lifestyle, and it's like they always come with this excuses that, yeah, I have to study a lot, I have to sort of learn a lot, then I have to give my time, a dedicated time on investment. So because of all these things, they're not able to invest. Right. So could you share some tips on how you track your investment while balancing your busy work life?
Yeah, so I would actually say like there shouldn't be like, any reluctance in doing that. Now everyone can have their own opinion or a different style kind of a thing. If say people don't have time, then maybe look for things which doesn't require a lot of time, right?
Okay.
You just sign up for it once and then you
Mm,
just keep doing it, right? Like
mm,
SIPs. So you sign up, like you do
mm.
like a one time kind of a research.
Right.
It's start of the, like, your financial year or your goal. Whenever you're thinking about it, you
Mm,
figure out that, okay, this is something which I really want to invest in. You start an
mm,
SIP which is automated. Everything is like, being done at the back end. You don't need to actually do anything on like, something, right? That's the first thing. The
okay.
second, I always feel that like, the time investment is also really important for you to actually achieve your financial goals, right? So if you're not able to invest like 2 hours in a month, or like, 10, 12 hours in a year, then
Mm,
I feel there is no point of just keep working on getting salary, but then, like, not investing in it to
mm,
like, maybe grow it by certain percentage,
mm,
right? So I would say, uh, first
mm,
figure out maybe some easier instruments for yourself, that these are
mm,
some things where I don't need to read a lot. Like, I don't understand the company financials, I don't understand like what are these, like, all these ratios and everything which is available. I don't want to get into this, right? Then just figure out like maybe two or three mutual funds, or two or three, like, instruments where you want to invest in,
mm.
and then just automate everything. Like, this is we are into that age of artificial intelligence, so we can all automate it, everything. And also there are a lot of AI platforms available these days which will actually help you in doing that. Like, you don't need to do a lot of research, but they would actually help you in suggesting you the funds. If you can't do it, maybe just hire somebody who can actually make a plan for an year, and then you just put your money in that, right? So there are multiple ways by which you can actually do it. It's all up to the person how they actually want to, like, invest their time. If they don't understand, maybe hire a financial advisor, and then just go with them, like, okay, maybe I'll take some help, make a plan, and then get done with it.
Okay, okay. So, one last question from my side. Like, it's something that I would like to ask from my side. Yeah. So, I was discussing with few of my friends, like, this was just a random conversation we were having in college and over in canteen. So, we were discussing even when we'll be starting earning and we'll be doing like living on our own. So, I was asking their reviews on what they think of investing right from day one of their earning life, right? So, how important is this early investment, right, in your career? So, you mentioned about a few of the points initially. So, anything specific regarding that?
Like, I would say very, very important. And a lot of us don't do it because we don't have awareness, right? Like, these are very important topics I feel should be taught in, like, our schools and in our colleges, because
Right.
this is like a basic life skill, which we don't take it seriously when, like, till
Hmm.
college. And like, I have done the same thing, and that's why I mentioned, like, in one of your previous questions as well, that
Hmm.
you know not making it early in my career was one of the mistakes which I actually did.
Hmm.
But what you can actually do is basically just start with something, like start small, because like when you graduate from college, we all think, or like, you would all think that abhi to, like, I just want to chill, like, why do I need to think about investment, right? I don't want to do anything, I'm getting enough salary. But you only understand after a point of time that, like, your salary is just one part of your income, right? You also need to maybe have multiple instruments, and
Right.
like,
Right.
how things are changing financially and economically for all of us. It's very, very important for us to be aware of, like, how do I grow my salary, right?
Hmm.
I can't just go with it, because then that way I need to keep working every day. So those are certain things which we need to be aware of. Don't be hesitant in thinking about, oh, like, investment is something when I'm investing like 1 CR. Like, or investment is something when I can invest 10 lakhs. No, investment is something which you start with 5,000 also, right? So start
Right.
small, I would say. If you don't have time, start like even with an FD, I would actually say on day one when you actually get your first salary. It's a good stepping stone because slowly you would actually see that, okay, you are gaining that momentum. After 6 months, maybe you would be like, "Ha, theek hai, let me figure out a better mode kind of a thing," right? Because you would think, oh my God, 7% is way too less. I can actually get 15%. So then you start competing it with yourself and then you start figuring out the new instruments. But I would say like this is the best motivation for anybody to at least start.
Right.
And whenever you would feel ki, Arey, this is very low, I don't want to get this, then you would compete with yourself only to actually get better.
Right. Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Just last thing,
Yeah.
any piece of advice for all the viewers right now? Any one advice on maybe financial terms, non-financial terms, anything, right? Anything.
Yeah, I would actually say, to wrap up the conversation, one, start early. Don't think this is a small or a long, I want to make a big investment only. Like, investment is not about just, investing a bigger amount,
Right.
right? So,
Hmm.
investment is starting with a very, very small amount. So, just do that. So, early investment is really important.
Hmm.
The second is about, keep in mind we have this 50-30-20 rule kind of a thing, right? Like 50
Okay.
you put it in
Okay.
needs and 30 you put it in wants and 20 is in your savings.
Hmm.
Change it slowly to a very good percentage which you would really want to invest in. And
Hmm.
lastly, because all of us, like a lot of us, for those who are salaried professionals, you get salary, I would always say first put that investment amount somewhere,
Hmm.
only then start spending that, because that is a
Right.
mistake which we always make, that okay, now I'm left with only this
This
much
much
percentage, how
amount.
should I
Yeah.
invest it? Yes. So I would say, like, first make all the investments and only then spend. Like, then you need to figure out how much money I am left, can I buy an iPhone, or can I buy something else, etc. And last advice, like, think about how do you want to buy things on these EMIs and
Okay.
everything, is something which I don't believe in personally. So figure out, like, do you really want to buy all these things on pay now, buy later kind of options? So that
Is it a
is
necessary now or not? Yeah.
correct. So figure out those kind of a things, because these are things which are making you like, okay, buy now, you get an iPhone, and then you end up paying it for this much amount of time. So I'm not a big believer of uh, your buy now, pay later kind of options,
Correct. Hmm.
which just buys me liabilities. If I'm going to buy an asset from that, then that's totally fine. But
Hmm.
if you're going to buy liabilities, then it's not fine. So you need to really figure that out.
Great. Great, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here. I think I personally enjoyed. I personally got few multiple interesting points, and I hope the audience would have loved the conversation. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. It was really great talking to you. And so let's meet in maybe in another live, and we'll be discussing more on finance
Yeah,
and anything else. So maybe yeah.
cool.
Thank you so much for
Thank you so
being here.
much. Thank you, Aman.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for joining. Bye.
Bye
Have a
bye.
good day.